I never imagined my entire world could crumble because of one late-night notification. Yet there it was, her phone lighting up at 1:17 a.m. while she slept peacefully beside me. Something deep inside urged me to look, and what I uncovered wasn't just infidelity, it was treachery in its purest form. My wife, Maya, pregnant with another man's child. And not just any man, but someone bound to me by blood. Or at least, that's what I was led to believe. But here's the shocking twist. That man wasn't even capable of fathering a child. Which meant the truth was even darker, more twisted, and far more destructive than I could have ever imagined. That night, my nightmare truly began. My name is Ethan Carter, a 38-year-old financial analyst living in Atlanta, Georgia. For nearly a decade, I believed I had built the kind of life most people dream about. A stable career, a beautiful house in the suburbs, a wife who seemed to turn heads wherever she went, and the kind of family image that played well on holiday cards and social media. From the outside looking in, we were the definition of success. The smiling couple grilling burgers at neighborhood barbecues, the ones hosting game nights and pretending everything was picture perfect. But the truth? Behind those carefully curated smiles, hairline cracks were spreading across the foundation of our marriage. Maya, my wife, was 34. Strikingly beautiful, intelligent, ambitious, she was the kind of woman who lit up every room she walked into. She worked in marketing, constantly traveling, constantly busy. At first, I admired her drive. But over the years, the stories about campaign meetings and late-night client dinners became harder and harder to believe. Her perfume lingered when she came home late. Sometimes her laughter over the phone stopped abruptly when I walked into the room. And when I questioned it, she always had an explanation ready, too ready. I wanted to trust her. God knows I tried. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that long marriages went through dry spells, that work stress explained her distance. But deep down, in that space where instinct lives, I felt something slipping through my fingers. My younger brother, Logan, was often around in those days. He's 3 years younger than me, and we've always been close. The kind of brothers who fight one day and defend each other the next. When he hit a rough patch financially, I didn't hesitate to let him crash at our place. He was family. Maya seemed to take a particular interest in him. Too much, if I'm being honest. She laughed a little louder at his jokes, leaned in a little closer during conversations. At first, I brushed it off. Family dynamics can be strange, and I didn't want to look insecure. I convinced myself it was harmless. Then came the announcement. I'll never forget that evening. Maya came home with a glow on her face I hadn't seen in months. She sat me down on the couch, her hands trembling ever so slightly. "Ethan," she whispered, eyes welling up, "I'm pregnant." Time stopped. Every husband imagines that moment as one filled with joy, but for me, it was like someone had yanked the floor out from under my feet. My mind raced, doing the math. Our intimacy had been sporadic at best. The timing didn't make sense. I smiled weakly, hugged her, and said all the things a husband is supposed to say. But inside, I felt the chill of suspicion wrapping itself around me like ice. That single revelation changed everything. It wasn't just about whether I could trust her anymore. It was the beginning of a spiral that would unravel secrets, expose betrayals, and drag my family into a storm none of us saw coming. When Maya broke the news, I should have been thrilled. Most men would give anything to hear the words, "We're having a baby." Instead, a storm of unease tore through me. The timeline didn't make sense. We hadn't been close often enough to make this possible. And when she hugged me, I noticed her eyes darting away, as if she were hiding something. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her even breathing beside me. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Against every moral fiber in me, I picked it up. One swipe, and the truth began to unravel. Messages to Logan. My brother. "We can't keep this secret forever. He'll figure it out eventually." My stomach knotted. My chest felt like it was caving in. The idea slammed into me like a truck. Was my wife pregnant with my own brother's child? By morning, my decision was made. I confronted her in the kitchen, voice steady even though my insides churned. Maya, I said, holding up her phone, is there something you want to tell me? Her face went pale. She broke down, tears spilling as she clutched her stomach. Yes, Ethan. The baby isn't yours. It's Logan's. For a moment, the world froze. My vision tunneled. The woman I had vowed to spend my life with had just confessed to the ultimate betrayal. But instead of raging, I felt a strange calm wash over me, because I knew something she didn't. Logan had gotten a vasectomy 5 years ago. He had told me in confidence one night after too many beers, laughing bitterly about how his ex-girlfriend thought it was the responsible thing. He even showed me the paperwork once, half as a joke. So her story was already full of cracks. I called Logan on the spot, putting him on speaker. He answered groggily, but when I laid out the accusation, his voice sharpened. Maya, are you insane? He barked. We never slept together. And even if we had, which we didn't, I can't have kids. Ethan knows that. The color drained from her face. Panic. Confusion. Desperation. She stumbled over her words, insisting we must be mistaken, that maybe the procedure had failed. But I knew better. And now I had leverage. Still, one question gnawed at me. If the father wasn't Logan, then who was it? I studied her trembling hands, her shifting eyes. She was hiding more. Much more. And I swore right then and there I would find out. Because this wasn't just infidelity anymore. This was a labyrinth of lies, and I had just stepped into its dark, twisted heart. From the moment Maya's lies began unraveling, my purpose shifted. It was no longer about confronting her in private or salvaging a broken marriage. It was about exposing her, publicly, undeniably, and making sure she could never twist the narrative to her advantage again. I knew Maya. She was clever, manipulative, and always 3 steps ahead when it came to covering her tracks. If I confronted her directly, she'd spin another story, cry her way into sympathy, maybe even turn the family against me. No, this time I needed airtight proof. Evidence so damning that no excuse could save her. Step 1 was to bring in someone who could dig deeper than I ever could. I hired a private investigator, a man with 20 years of experience exposing marital secrets. Within a week, he handed me a thick folder. Inside were time-stamped photos, credit card receipts, and surveillance stills of Maya sneaking into a downtown hotel. But she wasn't meeting Logan. She was meeting Derek Wallace, my brother-in-law, husband of Maya's sister, Selena. The discovery cut deeper than anything I had imagined. This wasn't just a betrayal of me, it was an attack on my entire family. I set up a meeting with Derek, expecting denial. And at first, that's exactly what I got. He swore nothing happened, that Maya was lying, that I must have been tricked. But when I slid the folder across the table and his eyes landed on the grainy black and white still of him entering the hotel with her, his composure shattered. What came out next was darker than I could have predicted. Maya hadn't simply seduced him. She had orchestrated the entire thing. During Labor Day weekend, while we were supposed to be celebrating with family, she drugged Selena to get her out of the way. Derek admitted that what followed wasn't consensual. It was an assault. He even had proof, an audio recording of Maya confessing, paired with security footage from a hidden camera that captured just enough to corroborate his story. As he played me the clip, I felt both rage and clarity. Rage for what she had done. Clarity for what needed to happen next. I could have taken this evidence straight to the police. But that wasn't enough. Maya thrived on control, on keeping appearances pristine in front of her family. Stripping that mask from her in the most public way possible would hurt her far more than any quiet arrest ever could. So I began planning. Carefully, meticulously. I collected copies of every piece of evidence, text messages, the investigator's report, Derek's audio recording, the video clips. I stored them in multiple places so nothing could conveniently disappear. And then I circled Thanksgiving dinner on my calendar. Every member of Maya's family would be there. The perfect audience. The perfect stage. The perfect trap. When she stood up to make her big announcement, basking in false glory, I would tear her world apart, piece by piece, using her own lies against her. Her mask was about to shatter, and I was going to be the one to break it. Thanksgiving finally arrived. The house smelled of roasted turkey, cinnamon, and baked pies, but beneath the surface, tension simmered like a ticking bomb. I sat at the table surrounded by family, smiles plastered on faces, laughter filling the room, everyone blissfully unaware that the night would end in disaster. Maya was radiant, playing the perfect hostess, her hand brushing over her stomach as if she were carrying a crown jewel. She thrived on the spotlight, and when the moment came, she rose to her feet, glass raised high. "I have a special announcement," she declared, her eyes sweeping the room dramatically. Then she patted her stomach, beaming. "Ethan and I are expecting a baby." Applause erupted. My mother teared up, Logan gave a tight, forced smile, and Selena, poor Selena, clapped despite the unease clouding her expression. Everyone believed they were witnessing a moment of joy. I let the noise fade before I spoke. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, sharp enough to slice through the atmosphere, "there's something you all need to hear first." The room hushed. All eyes turned to me. I gave a subtle nod to Derek. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone, but his voice was strong. He hit play. Maya's voice filled the room. Crystal clear. Cold. Calculating. "Don't worry," I slipped something into Selena's drink. "She'll be out for hours. You won't say anything, Derek. If you do, you'll regret it." The words hung in the air like poison. Gasps broke the silence. My mother dropped her fork onto her plate with a clatter. Selena's hand flew to her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. Then came the video footage, grainy but damning, projected onto the living room TV. Maya, moving stealthily, tampering with drinks, prowling like a predator. The room erupted in chaos. Voices overlapped, accusations, sobs, outrage. Maya's face turned ashen. She lunged forward, shouting, "It's fake. It's all fake. They're framing me." But before she could spin her lies, Logan slammed a stack of papers onto the table. His voice thundered. "My vasectomy results. 5 years ago. I couldn't be the father even if I wanted to be." The final nail in her coffin. Maya's mask crumbled. She grabbed her purse and bolted, stumbling out the door into the cold November night. But her escape was only temporary. In the days that followed, Derek filed charges. The police opened an investigation. Maya scrambled, desperate to regain control. She fabricated text messages, even launched a blog painting herself as the victim of a family conspiracy. But every move backfired, each forgery was exposed, each lie dismantled. 3 weeks later, officers showed up at her workplace. She was arrested in front of her colleagues, handcuffed and led out in disgrace. At trial, she clung to her innocence, crying, shaking her head, blaming everyone else. But the evidence was ironclad. The audio recordings, the surveillance footage, the medical records, the investigator's report. The jury deliberated for barely an hour. Guilty. Maya was sentenced to 2 to 4 years in prison. The irony? She would be giving birth behind bars. The woman who once manipulated everyone with her beauty and charm was now reduced to an inmate, stripped of the control she had wielded for so long. For me, it was the most bittersweet victory of my life. The divorce was finalized not long after Maya's sentencing. Signing those papers felt less like an ending and more like shedding a heavy weight I had carried for years without realizing it. Maya didn't just lose me, she lost everything. Her reputation was in shambles, her family turned their backs on her, and the freedom she had once abused so recklessly was stripped away by the justice system. She went from designer handbags and polished appearances to orange jumpsuits and prison walls. As for me, I won't pretend I walked away unscathed. Betrayal leaves scars. Some nights, I still wake up replaying those moments. The phone buzzing at 1:17 a.m., the text that shattered my world, the sound of her voice admitting what she had done. But pain has a strange way of carving space for clarity. Instead of letting bitterness rot me from the inside out, I chose to channel my energy into the truth. That's what carried me through. Not revenge for revenge's sake, not violence or screaming matches, but strategy, patience, the steady unraveling of lies until the truth stood naked in front of everyone. And that truth, undeniable, documented and witnessed, became the sharpest weapon I could wield. Maya thought she could manipulate, gaslight, and twist her way out of accountability. She had always believed she was smarter than everyone else, that she could cry or seduce or scheme her way back into control. But in the end, her lies became her undoing. Every step she took to save herself only pushed her closer to destruction. And me? I walked away with something she could never touch: peace. If there's one message I hope others take from my story, it's this: sometimes the most devastating revenge isn't rage. It isn't lowering yourself to the level of the person who wronged you. It's patience, planning, and allowing the truth to do what it always does: expose. Lies can only survive in the dark. Once they're dragged into the light, they shrivel. Maya may serve her sentence and one day walk free, but she will never reclaim the image she tried to protect. Her name, once whispered with admiration, is now a cautionary tale. And for me, the chapter is closed. I'm not the same man I was before, but maybe that's a blessing. Stronger, wiser, sharper. A man who knows that no matter how deep betrayal cuts, the truth cuts deeper.